So imagine your life at peak impact. So you achieve like everything you're dreaming of now, and maybe a little bit beyond, and you're like top influence, peak impact. I want you to draw your impact at that moment.
I'm not a good artist, but I'm gonna draw. Let's go.
You're not gonna get graded. So
Got it.
all right, show it to me and describe it, please. All
I'm
right.
outside of my house. The
Okay.
sun's shining. We're riding bikes. Everyone's outside, the whole family, and the computer is indoors getting work done while I'm not.
Okay.
And I got stuff to do, but it's not so pressing that I got to stress on it because I got systems in place.
I like it. Okay. So imagine you're outside having fun, riding bikes with the fam. Computer is doing its thing, right? What is the biggest opportunity you want to attract at that point? Like, what would be a fantastic opportunity, like knocking at your door?
Long-term clients who are going to stick around for years and see value in my offer.
That's
So I
that's
don't
cool.
need,
That's kind of like a canned answer. So I'm gonna push back a little bit, right?
yeah,
Like I want you to picture, right? You're you're at your bike, right? Having a run, having fun, and someone calls your phone. Describe that call. Who is it? Who's like the
got it.
ideal? Yeah.
Okay. So the person calling my phone is someone who is behind a business. They
Okay.
might be the podcast host. They might be the founder, CEO of this company. They've been doing podcasts for a long time. They trust in the podcast as a growth tool for their business, but they haven't turned the dial to really take it super seriously. They might have been piddling for a year or two, trying to do it internally, and they're like, all right, now, hey, we're ready to commit and really make something great with our podcast so we can start really building some trust with some new audience, onboard people, take advantage of socials that we might have been too busy with in the past. So we're ready to give you, George, our podcast, our video podcast, so you can make it look better.
But if it's,
And
I'm still gonna push back because it also
cool.
sounds premeditated, right? So
Premeditated, yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
like
yeah.
Imagine, okay, so if they have an established podcast, this imaginary client, right?
Yeah.
And it's already doing well, right? What is the like? Can you give me an example of like a person or company that's doing that right now, that they have a good podcast that's established and whatever, and they're like, hey, we want to take it to the next
Well, it might
level?
not be established yet, but the issue is they're doing it by the seat of their pants, and they're not they're ready to do it professionally, right? They might have been having some VA or one marketing person who's a Swiss Army knife trying to do 10 things at once, who's been doing it, but they're ready to say like, all right, let's take this seriously. So established might not be the right word for their podcast. They're ready to let it become established.
Okay, but it's
So
still
the gist of
it's
what I'm
kind of,
saying is
yeah.
like they have trust that they want a podcast. They don't need to try it out and see if it's good for them. They know that it's good for them, but they're too busy. So they need someone to do it, take that off their hands and do it really well.
All right. There's
Does
gonna
that
be
make
a target
sense?
market question in the future, like it's in the near future. So
Yeah.
this is good info for that, but still, you're kind of not. I think it's. I don't know what it is. So I'm gonna ask the question
Let me
again and
just
keep pushing.
like turn the
Yeah.
brain off a little bit and
Yeah.
just flow a bit.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep pushing until I get the answer I want. All right.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So it's not about target market. It's literally what will be like the sweetest deal, like the best thing you can imagine. Like, you know, like Steve Jobs comes out of the grave and says, "Hey, George, this is like an
Yeah.
imagination exercise. Like, what is the best opportunity that at peak, like full form, right? Like everything, you have all these clients, right? You have these 10 clients all paying you like 100 grand, a year, and you life is sweet, right? You're not convincing everybody, you're not fighting to get whatever. Everything is just beautiful, right? And financially free times is 100, okay?
Cool,
And
cool.
and and then someone picks up the phone and calls your phone and says, "Hey, George, I want to work with you." What is that? Who's that someone? And what is the best version of
Dude,
that?
it's Dirk Nowitzki from the Dallas Mavericks, my
Okay.
hero,
Yeah. All
and
right.
he wants me to do videos for him. And
All
he's
right.
like, "Yeah, come on over to my house. Let's have dinner, George." And I'm like,
Hell
it
yeah.
doesn't get any there we go.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. Now we got something. All right.
All
Dirk
right.
Nowitzki, like you want to do like athletes and like even like what's his name? Tony Hawk, for example. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
let's go. Let's do it.
That's not a bad idea. I need to see what Tony Hawk's doing.
Yeah. Uh, what made you not because like I'm kind of going off script a little because I'm
You're
curious
good.
to hear your take on this. But what made you not go after that market from the beginning? Because you have
I'm
the credentials.
I'm in it actively in that market, and I
Yeah.
do not appreciate or enjoy
Uh-huh.
working in it, even though the output, the video that I deliver is like a dream. Like I'm creating videos for the NFL. Like I literally just
Yeah.
delivered a video yesterday to the NFL.
Mhm.
The process that it took to get that video done after working in big corporations for 12 years, like I just hate the way they work and they move. They don't care
Yeah.
about
No,
me.
not the big, not NFL and Disney or whatever, but like Dirk Nowitzki, like
Yeah,
retired athletes who want to start podcasts.
there we go. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Why
So I
haven't? Yeah.
honestly, why haven't I? The only good reason I can give you is I haven't even tried.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have thought about it. I have like looked into like and like discovered some of the agencies that a lot of athletes have podcasts through.
Hmm.
Because truth is, most of them do it so poorly.
Yeah.
It's ripe for the taking. Like
Hmm.
it's a little light bulb moment, you know. It's inspire. It's like fun to think about it.
Yeah, because
But
like
why haven't I? I just
Tyson
literally,
did
I
it the
just
best
haven't.
one. Like Mike Tyson when he launched his, that was like the only athlete that was like, damn, this is this is a fun
Yeah.
podcast, right?
And
You know
Shaq
that.
has a good one too.
Oh, really?
For what it's worth. Yeah, Shaq has a pretty good one. I
Nice.
product from a production standpoint, you know.
Yeah. So I like it. We're we're
You got
playing with
something.
fire
Let's
now.
go.
We're playing with fire. That's good. All right. What is your proudest moment in your life?
In my life,
Yeah.
honestly, it was when I was a professional BMX rider and I got invited on a trip to Palm Springs, California with like a group of like 12 bike riders, and like 9 of those bike riders I grew up with posters of them on my wall, and I was like seen as someone who was fit to ride with those dudes.
Mm,
So that it doesn't, I was 22, you know,
yeah.
and got to like literally like dudes who were like on my folders in school.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with them for 10 days and ride with them. So
That's awesome.
that's
And
got to
was
be
it
it.
was it what you expected?
It was, yeah. I mean, a lot. It
Uh-huh.
was fun. It was funny when you realize your heroes are humans
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
somewhat flawed and maybe not as interesting as they look like in the 2-minute video you grew up watching.
Mm,
But it was amazing. It was amazing.
that's awesome.
I was like, shell shocked for like 10 days, and some of them are like close friends who I still hang out with now. So
Oh, that's awesome. And do you have a second proudest moment?
Mm. Moment, golly. I'm gonna not give you a bike riding one because most of them are bike riding because I was like proper um, dream stuff. But I don't know. I might say moving back home to Texas after 12 years in California, because when I did that, it was the ability to leave LA and keep clients, even though I wasn't there, showed that like I showed up as a 22-year-old. I left as a 35-year-old, and uh, I built something that was strong enough to move across the country and keep it going.
So that like speaks to like your skills and reputation, like
Yeah, it was
that's the part.
validating, right? It
Yeah.
was like I did all this and I can leave here and not sacrifice work because I've built up enough trust with people who I trust.
Mhm. And if you're gonna, tell us the story of George, what is your story?
Dude, all right. So if I was gonna do it strictly from like a video editing world, like um I grew up loving to ride bikes, loved riding BMX, filmed it in my backyard, built little tall dirt jumps. My friends and I would film it. Then one day we were like, well, let's put it in the computer and try to make an actual like video like the ones we watch on the
Mm,
VHS tapes. Did that. Some of my friends become legitimate pros, and it was easy for me to film them
mm,
and then send it to these big companies. And I'm still like 15, 16 now, but I'm able to like see my what I'm filming like on
mm,
tapes because my friends were excelling.
mm,
Um, that grew into me getting recognized as a writer, getting sponsored by some fun, awesome companies, getting to fly around the world just to ride bikes, interviews, TV shows, all sorts of like just feeling cool, doing what you love. And then in 1 month, I tore my ACL and I knocked out all my front teeth.
oh,
And it was a
damn.
9 month recovery.
Wow.
And during those 9 months, I started really leaning into video editing.
Mhm,
I visited my sister who was living in LA. I thought, you know what? When I'm in LA, let's just get a job. Let's see if I can get a 1 day job while I'm here for like 2 weeks. Landed a job on, I think it was a Monday. Um, didn't hear anything back though. I was like, well, nothing. It was a job through Craigslist. Hop on an airplane Tuesday to fly home. And at LAX, the dude called me and was like, hey, we had a quick chat. He was like, well, would you be down to work Thursday? And I was like, man, this thing might not be real. It's through
mm,
Craigslist. So I flew home. The moment I walked off that plane, I was like, damn, I should go back to LA. So I bought a one
mm,
way ticket, flew back, met that dude at his house the next
mm,
morning. He was like, hey, you did some good work. Let's try again tomorrow. It was a 1 day job. We went from his guest bedroom to he landed Disney as a client. Then Disney asked us to work from inside their studios. So we went from his guest bedroom to Disney's internal studios. From there, we started landing clients like CNN, Nickelodeon. And so we were like, oh, shoot, like we can't be working on like Disney competitors inside of Disney's office. So we leased space from a big agency,
mhm,
got a little office inside of this big agency in Hollywood, did that for a handful of years. Team grew from 3 to 9. Like, we're too big for this. So my boss has built a 4,000 square foot building and we moved into that. And then we operated out of that for 4 or 5 years. And through that time, we worked with so many awesome clients, and
mhm,
I went from this dude's assistant to 9 years later, like helping lead a team of editors.
mm.
Um, and it was all through a Craigslist job that I got because I tore my ACL. So I visited my sister, um,
Amazing how that
like
works,
all
right?
unexpected. And then pandemic happens. So
Mhm,
many of these big clients don't have the ability to um, work internally.
mhm,
So the teams all get fired. But I had met so many producers. They were like, George, could you handle internal work right now? So I captured some huge clients like Meta and the NFL I caught during the pandemic because internal teams weren't able to go into work in LA, and landed all those clients, moved back to Texas once that pandemic ended. And here I am today. And the biggest, newest chapter is that I'm learning, I'm ready to turn that page, stop working with these big brands,
mhm.
because it's just hard to have control over your life when you're working for the big fat machines. So I'm
And
turning
you
the
you're
page.
working with those through your boss's company or through like a different.
Producers, most of them were producers who I met at Disney because
Mhm.
like producers love to go get Disney on their resume and then bounce. And
Okay.
so during the like 3, 4 years I was at Disney, I met so many talented producers,
Okay.
and I still work with most of those people today.
Amazing.
Um, that's just producers who work on big branding jobs, and
And
I get
then yeah,
to edit for them. They always hire me as their editor.
amazing. And then you were like, all right, time to lean into this podcast idea you had and
Yeah.
launched that? How describe that? Like,
Yeah,
what made you want to do that? Well, yeah.
I started taking all these courses because I was tired of, I knew that I was like more than a freelancer in
Mhm.
my mind, because I was like,
Yeah.
I was hiring, I had a team of 3 editors and a
Yeah.
graphics guy, but I was still just calling myself a freelancer. So I started taking all these little business, how to be a solopreneur, you know, courses. And so I started leaning really into where I was making the most money, which was e-commerce. Started getting more e-commerce clients, and I thought, I don't really want to like build this life. Like, I'm not loving this. So then I switched to sports, started getting a lot of more work from the NFL, and I was like, every one of these jobs nearly kills me, uh, because I have so much passion for
Mm,
sports videos that I want them done perfectly, and it's a detriment to like my well-being. If I like execute to what I know it's capable of, like, I'm not a good person,
mhm,
and I cannot turn that off. Like, if I'm working on an NFL video, it's gonna be the best version of what it can be, and that's like detrimental to me, my family, and my well-being and my health, because I will wake up at 2 a.m. with an idea and just go from 2 to 7 on an idea, you know. So I was
perfect.
like, this is going to kill me if I do this.
Mhm,
So I went and I looked at jobs that I'd done in the past like 3 years that I thought were, I brought real deal value to like the business,
mhm.
that didn't hurt me, and that were consistent. Because one of the hard things about my work is like, the NFL needs a player profile. It falls in my lap, but they need it in 4 weeks. I don't have any, I don't know when that's coming. It just shows up one day and it's time to buckle down. I want
Mhm.
to avoid that. I want recurring income, and I want to have lower stress. And podcasts checked all those boxes.
Okay.
So a couple of my clients had turned into creators over the past couple of years, and I had been doing their podcast. And I have really strong motion graphics relationships. And I was like, with the motion graphics artist that I know, with my knowledge and biz and like making videos for businesses, like, I can check a lot of boxes and bring a lot of value that I don't see being brought to a massive majority of podcasts. So
Mm.
it checked the boxes of make my life better, bring value to a business, something I'm confident I know I can do well, and I can get clients who need a video on a recurring basis. So there's
Yeah.
no surprises. So it set up it looks to me like a lifestyle building business versus like creating like my dream art, which I've realized is not the best thing for me as a person.
Because you love it too much and you spend so much time on it, or is it because the
Bec-
reward from
it's
doing that
twofold.
is
Like a good example is like, I was on an NFL job the
yeah.
past 2 months. It was supposed to be a 3-week job.
Mhm,
It started in July. I had a vacation the last week of August. Everyone knew about it. It was 9 weeks of buffer before that was an issue. Job had 3 weeks, no big deal. Delay internally at the NFL. Send me half the footage. They say, can you just get started on half of it? I was like, well, typically I don't do that. They're like, well, let's just get started on it anyway. Next thing you know, the project starts 5 weeks late. They say, hey, stop. Let's stop down because we're getting this new footage from over here.
mhm,
That ended up taking 3 weeks. They didn't get me the footage till 10 days before my vacation now. Now I'm like, damn, like, if I don't do this quick, I'm gonna be working on my vacation.
mhm,
So I pump out an edit, work super late, like 3 days in a row,
mhm,
give it to them. Takes 5 days for them to get one round of feedback back to me. Now there's
mhm,
only 3 days before my trip. Get the feedback at like 8 p.m., stay up most of the night so I can get it back to them so I can
mhm,
get round two before the trip. Round two never comes. I'm like, hey guys, as mentioned 9 weeks ago, I'm in
mhm,
Maine the next week in nature. I'm not going to have good internet. They're like,
mhm,
well, we need this video by Friday. I was like, well, there's never a due date even talked about, but
mhm.
they need it on Friday. So now I'm up at 3 a.m., 3 days in a row on my vacation in Maine,
Oh, geez.
just because this big machine is just, these big corporate machines are not very efficient, because they have to pass through so many hands, have to touch every video before it gets the check of approval.
And if you set a boundary, they're like, we'll just hire someone else.
Yeah, yeah. The people I talk to care about me. Like, they're so sad that
Mhm,
they have to ask for this, but the
mhm.
machine behind the person is a force that can't be stopped. You know.
But
and
what
it's not
happens
meant to.
if you push back? Like if you're like, hey, no,
That's what I did. I said no. I was like, "Hey, dude, my computer's off like for the next
yeah,
week," and they're like, "What do we need to do to get this done?" I was like, Let's just tell whoever you got to tell. Like, well, I can work on it on Monday. I'll work the weekend when I get back. We'll do it on Monday."
yeah.
Like, they just kept asking, like, "What can we do to get it by Friday?" So eventually, I'm like, "All right, like I'll be the one that breaks."
But what if
Um,
you say 10x money? Like, because it just
well,
sounds like a compensation, like at
that's what
some
you
level of,
should do,
yeah.
but the producer who there's like two levels of producers before I get to the person that I fully need to talk to,
Mhm.
and I things I don't want to say out
Yeah,
loud on
yeah,
email
I
without.
get it, but
But
yeah, all right.
long story short, to simplify it, there's people in through the line that weren't ready to back me up. Like,
Okay.
as hard as I speak for myself, the next person has to then take that hard stand to the person above them.
Hmm.
Um,
I
and
like that. Yeah,
that makes sense. It's just
it
like
makes sense. Yeah.
I've just found that, like, even though like Bob cares about me, like, it's such a there's so many chains of command at these big companies, despite whatever my internal
Yeah.
hard boundaries are, like they're just gonna hire someone else to finish it to get it by Friday, because it doesn't really matter that George is making it,
Mhm.
even though they hire me because they know it'll be good. Um, they're just a big company, and that's just one small story of like thousands, not thousands, probably tens,
Mhm.
20 to 40 times where it's like the people there love me and I love them. I've been working with them for years, but there's just a force behind them that needs something that whatever fun, cute things I've got in mind don't matter, you know?
Mhm.
So I'm ready to work for companies that I have a little bit more say in.
I love it. I like the trajectory. I just feel like it's just it sounds like you have so much talent
Yeah,
in editing action, that like podcast seems like the total opposite. It's like
dude,
just
it does.
so
Yeah.
slow, and it's like you got to go through hours of footage to get some action going.
Yeah,
You know?
it's funny though. It's like it's not too different. Like last year, I made, if you know who Miles Garrett is, he's Defensive Player of the Year. Like I did his
Okay.
profile last year,
Uh-huh.
and it was like 18 hours of footage that I had
Okay.
to condense down to a 10-minute story,
Uh-huh.
and most of that
So
is
it's kind of the
interviews.
same. Yeah. Okay.
And so like I'm real like my real, if I had to like make the best video ever that I wasn't proud of, I would be like, give me really strong interviews and then shoot some really good B-roll, and
Mm,
I'm gonna make something that's there's gonna be tears. Like I've done it 100 times, I can do it 100 more.
yeah.
So I'm like really comfortable listening to interviews and telling a story with them.
Because I feel like a producer slash editor, like you have so much. Like for example, like Matty Matheson.
I don't.
You don't know Matty Matheson? Oh my god, he's
How do you spell
a
that?
MattyMatheson.
Madison Maddie.
No, Matty Matheson, like Matthew
Oh,
Matheson.
Matheson.
Uh-huh. Matty Matheson.
Is he a chef?
He's a chef,
Oh, I
and
recognize this guy. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's hilarious, and you should watch his cooking stuff. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's a little more action too. Like having clients like that where like funny act, like there's something going on. Not
Yeah.
that podcast is not a good direction. It's a show and then, you
Yeah.
know. But I feel like there's a bigger play here where you're like taking people like Dirk Nowitzki and whoever the celebrity is, and then producing not just an interview show, but just shows around these people. Like I feel
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's funny. It's like you say, like, full honesty, like those things take so much effort. And I've like, as the actual creator, right? Like when
yeah,
I'm ingesting the footage and then outputting the story, there's
yeah,
so much effort in that. And I'm like, I'm ready to be a bit more of the creative director
Yeah.
and less of the executor.
Hmm.
And I'm not against making boring videos that make some decent monthly income.
Yeah.
And then this is not part of my plan, but like clearly, like I think I'm going to attract, like I've got a high price point. So I'm like,
Hmm.
the people who I attract are going to be successful in some capacity if they can afford me.
Hmm.
And that could open up another avenue into like all the branding work I've done in the past. Right. Like, but like
Yeah,
the
but they
truth,
but the,
to
but
get
they
more to what,
want, yeah,
uh-huh.
they want nobody wants to back someone who's like, maybe, I don't know. They want to be like, hey, I got better vision than you have, and let me
Yeah.
show it to you. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of conviction to take that position and then also sell that position. And you kind of dilly dallying about, whether you want to take
No,
that
like I know
position
I
is not gonna.
truthfully like I don't and I right now at this point in my life, like I don't enjoy the big, huge projects
It's
that
not. It's not big,
used to
huge.
make me feel good.
It's
Like they
not.
used
It's
to
not
make me
about big,
feel
huge.
good.
It's about opportunity, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
for example, Matty Matheson. Let's just
Yeah.
because I'm more familiar with this. I'm not a big sports guy, so
You're
I
good.
don't really know.
Hey, I'm a big food guy, so you got my
Okay,
attention. So
perfect. So Matty Matheson, he's funny, right? And he wants to shoot, let's say, two uh whatever, but food tutorials or food
yeah.
episodes a week, and then maybe one podcast a week, right? So that's
Hmm.
like maybe it's three shows, right? And what's stopping you from kind of finding somebody with one show, right? With the podcast or just a food show, and then saying, hey, we can do these three things for you.
Hmm.
And, kind of increasing their income capacity because you're multiplying the impressions times three, right? So whatever sponsorships they can make with one show, now they can have three sponsors
Yeah, yeah.
and creating all this value for them. And it's you control that entire production, so it's your timeline, it's your process, it's
Yeah.
your staff, it's your kind of thing. They're trusting you and you're controlling everything. So it's not about the big machine, like you're saying, where like they're invading your time, your privacy, your boundaries and all of that. Like, I
Yeah.
just want to understand what's your answer to that?
Truthfully, like doing boring work is really exciting to me right now.
Mhm. Okay.
Does that make sense? Like simple, boring, predictable is like very attractive to me after the like roller coaster I've been on the past decade plus
Hmm.
of that's my best. Like I'd honestly like if the like I'm a huge sports fan. Love the Dallas Mavericks. Like if the Dallas Mavericks came to me tomorrow with an offer to be the video editor for an amount of cash annually that would set me up, I I wouldn't say yes like immediately because it's like it's gonna be so much brain power and work, and it's I'm very excited by boring right now. Does
But
that make sense?
it makes sense. And by the way, like if we say anything in this, we can cut it. And then
Yeah.
also, if at the end of this you're like, I don't want to release this video,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine too. Like, so don't feel like we're having a conversation that's gonna be aired or whatever. Like, we can
Cool.
just
No,
scratch
I'm
it.
talking
Yeah,
to you. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna still push back, bro, because
Cool.
like,
Keep it. Keep it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy it. I'm
yeah,
into it.
yeah, because what you're saying doesn't make sense economically. It makes sense like, if I was maybe your personal coach, I'd be like, yeah, bro, you need to
Yeah,
chill
yeah.
out and whatever. And it's like, why are you doing this? Like, why don't you just take a sabbatical and just fucking ride bikes for a year and recharge your batteries and get your intensity back? Like, why are you trying
Yeah.
to?
Because honestly, there's a number of answers. First one that comes to mind is like a lot of it comes to like I've in some very real ways, like I have like made what I consider to be dream videos.
Mm,
Like I got to work on projects like holy shit, like this is what I've been after. This is it.
mm.
Like I'm doing it. I'm like peak creative, peak client, and I was not happy during like I love to watch the outcome, but the process it took to get there is just like it's a lot of work. And a lot of work isn't a bad thing. It's something I'm afraid of. But it's like pound your head into the pavement and like solve this amazing code to unleash this awesome video. And it's something that I do once and I'm like, man, I need like 3 months off after that video. And it doesn't pay enough to get those 3 months off.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Like, then why don't you just align that? Like, why don't you set yourself up where, first of all, you're taking the credit because I'm as a person who's been a consultant
Yeah.
and I've kind of create all these transformations that I go on to see big successes, and there's no like, hey, Zaid's the man. You know, it is very draining because you're like, what the fuck did I do? No amount of money, like you're saying, when you're invested fully, like all your
Yeah.
intensity and all of that, and then you don't get credit. Even you can be the most humble monk in the world, it still feels good when when you can actually be proud of it, be like, hey, this is mine.
No,
And I
it
was
feels
like,
good.
it
Like I
shows them,
still
man.
today, like, yeah, like I love to show people those videos. Like
But
I've
nobody
made,
knows until you show them, right? So
yeah, yeah.
you don't own the product, right, as much as you can if it was yours, like
Hmm.
if it
But
was
I love to be like, yeah, watch my video. Let's go to NFL.com and it's
uh
right here. You know, it's
yeah.
cool. It feels good. But I'm also like so thankful. Like whenever they hit me up, I'm like, oh shit. Like buckle up. Like here we go. Um, because
What is
every
that
single
like? What
time.
is that number that's gonna make you happy? Like let's
So
say,
like
yeah,
if annual or like per project or
per project, yeah, like break it down. Like three, you said it takes how long?
so I just made a
Yeah.
2 minute video that helps to sell sponsorships.
Okay,
It was a 2 minute video. It was meant to be a 2 week timeline, turned into a 15-week timeline,
Jesus,
and I made $4,000 on that one video. And
ridiculous. Like that's so
yeah,
not,
and
yeah.
it's because like the last one I did for them, round two, it took 2 rounds of revisions. It was done in like 8 days.
Mhm.
But this time there was confusion internally. They went back this direction. That was wrong. They went this direction. They didn't know what they wanted. And it just got pulled in 10 different directions. And it was like
Okay, so let's say you
too
can
many
you can
chefs in the
control.
cooks in the
Let's say,
kitchen.
yeah, let's say you can control the timeline, right?
Yeah.
And for that 2 minute video, which requires, you said 2 weeks of work, 1 week of work.
Should be 10 business days.
Yeah,
If
so two
everyone's
weeks.
like keyed in, boom. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, 2 weeks. So uh for that kind of project, how much would make you happy?
Like 12 grand would be great.
12 grand for, but it sounds like you can get that no problem.
Maybe, maybe.
It's because you just
I
never
have not
charge
yet.
that.
Like well, truthfully, like there's some clients where I do get that and it's awesome. And there's some where there's just constant pushback
Okay.
and they'll be in like the NFL will hire me, but they'll hire me through an agency. And so now there's like this middleman with the cut
Mhm,
where I get to do my part.
mhm,
Um, and I feel like that's typically the case with these bigger companies is like I'm literally emailing at NFL.com emails,
mhm,
but there's like these agencies between us that are like pulling strings, so
mhm.
they can just get their money because that's just what big companies tend to do. Just like
Yeah, yeah, they hire agencies
agency,
and then the
agency,
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 yeah, yeah.
boom, and it's like yeah, gets kicked down the can, and then I catch it at the end,
Mm,
and then um, I'll do my email. Just try to email those guys directly, like, hey man, like just checking in, like how's life, Tim? Like, hey, I'll be in LA. You want to get lunch?
yeah.
But I don't get hired directly
Mm.
still
Okay, I want to take you
with
back.
some companies. So let's
I
go.
want to
Yeah.
take you back, all right? Because like my goal is to reignite the passion with you and give you like something that
Yeah.
you can do happily. All right. So let's go back to when did you start riding bikes with your homies?
Oof, I was in 5th grade.
Fifth
So we're
grade.
talking like 1998 or something.
Let's take you back to 1998. Right.
All right, let's go.
What was that moment? You said I heard the story once about like the ramp that your father fell or
Uh-huh.
something, he caught
Yeah,
air
yeah.
or whatever. Like, was that the moment you started taking bikes like as a passion? And if so, can you describe that moment?
That was more of like, oh shoot, like you can like get in the air on your bike. Like I hadn't even
Uh,
seen someone do it on a video. So yeah,
mhm.
that was like fun. Awesome. Dude built a guy won the lottery. I used to live
Uh,
next to a big cow farm, right?
yeah.
Dude won the lottery, bought the cow farm, tried to build a neighborhood, went bankrupt, left behind
Hmm.
just dirt piles everywhere. So
Hmm.
me and my friends just turned all those dirt piles into jumps. And like every day after school was like me and my 4 best friends shaping dirt to get air off of it, you know? So it's hard to
That's
beat it, you know?
that's amazing. And then when was the moment that you were like, let's film this stuff?
Oh, at some point, I think my dad just had a camera and I just borrowed
Mhm.
the camera. I probably didn't even
But
ask him.
what did you want to film
Oh, like specifically, it was this new
specifically?
jump
Yeah.
we built. It was just a new jump we built. And it was
Uh-huh.
like, oh man, like is Austin gonna jump that? It's like, I'm gonna get my dad's camera and like film him try to jump this thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because maybe he's gonna get hurt. Who knows? We're in like 6th grade at this point. But yeah, took the big clunker video camera out to the dirt field and
Hmm.
filmed him jump it. And then just went from there. We went home,
Yeah.
you know, took all the cables it took to plug
Uh-huh.
it into the back of the VHS
Hmm.
and then like watched ourselves. And then it was
Hmm.
like that just, that never stopped
Yeah.
after that.
Oh, that's awesome. And then can you describe the moment that you submitted that like you were like we submitted it to something and you got
Oh,
it?
that video, like that
What
was
was the
really
video?
just us. But
Yeah.
the first time that we ever like I ever had something that like went to someone beyond my friend group. Oh, what was it? It was a DVD. Um, a friend of mine owned a clothing company, and
Hmm.
we spent like literally a whole year with our closest friends making a video, like a skate video, but a bike video, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and we just made it with like selling shirts money, and it blew up, sold hundreds of copies in Japan and Europe, and like all of us went from nobodies to somebodies in the sport.
Hmm.
And there was like articles and like our favorite magazines written about our video. And
And
so
that's
that was
you submitted it where like some
we just
clothes
sold the
shop?
DVD. We're just like, yeah, it was in Austin, Texas. We
Uh-huh.
just like sold the DVDs out of a bike shop in Austin, and it just kind of caught fire. And like
That's awesome.
we had to make more DVDs, had to make more and more and more, and they just kept selling, kept selling, kept selling. And next thing you know, like every single person who was in that video got sponsored by a big company by the end of the next year. And then
That's
all of
awesome.
our careers took off, bike riding careers.
But that's so cool.
It
Like
was awesome. Yeah.
I I'm so confused why this is not what you want to pursue. Something similar to that. Like and
Yeah.
one
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one mixtapes. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of the same story, right?
Uh
But
huh.
without the clothing line, but it's kind of the same story. Like how you're not making your own videos of something and building a brand behind that that sells something is confusing me.
Yeah. No, no. And
Yeah.
like, truthfully, like, this could just be a crazy season of being like an overworked, like, new dad,
Mhm.
of like just seeking some sort of
Stability.
simplicity and
Mhm.
minimalism. And like, you probably heard like LA's had all these strikes. So, like, some of these clients who've been with me forever have started to like, hey, like, we're not going to make that video we've made the past 9 years. Like, we're not doing that
Mhm.
one this year because they're cutting costs. So there's creative directors who I know that have like big, beautiful homes that are like selling their cars because they're just like no one's making the money they have the past couple of years. So I was reading the tea leaves, smelling the
Mhm.
smoke,
Mhm.
thinking like, all right, like one of the producers I worked with was like in their late 50s and retired. I was like, ooh, like okay, like
Mhm.
there's some big things moving on in the LA world where these big companies are cutting
Mhm.
costs. They're offloading everything off their third-party servers and like changing where they're storing their footage, going to hard drives. I'm
Mhm,
like, okay, all this is kind of like a little funny.
mhm.
So I started trying to think about ways that I could do something. Like I keep saying, like something that's I lost my train of thought here a little bit, but something that's like not what I have been doing. Like
I
I
understand
hate to
what you
say
no,
this, but
yeah,
like
I
I've
feel
built it's
yeah.
like in a way, without like pumping up my ego too much, like I feel like I worked with like the top of BMX. Like I got to do that. And then I like got super fortunate to go then basically land in Disney's lap and then work with CNN and E and Nickelodeon and Meta and the NFL. Like I've like kind of feel like I've been like operating at like the top of what I've been doing for a long time. And now I see those types of videos as nothing more than a video. Not to say they're like I see them for what they are like mechanically, and I don't get so pumped up about like, oh, like yeah, I'm working with huge client Nike, huge client UNC. Like I don't get that excited by it, and I kind of get excited by working with smaller companies who are growing um, that can afford me.
But that's
And
it's such a I'm not convinced with that.
it feels like a bubble pop, I'm sure. Like, and like truthfully, it's just like I don't know.
No, it feels like self-sabotage to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like self-sabotage. It feels like somebody who's worked hard all their life and like at the moment of level up, you know, creatively on
Yeah.
your own terms, on your own whatever, you're like, nah, I'd rather go chase after huckster business owners who want to growth and all of this culture. And it's like, well, why? You have the opportunity to do exactly what you chose, which is podcasts.
Yeah.
But with people like Dirk Nowitzki and like you can have 4 clients like that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
pay you 10 to 20 grand a month for
Yeah.
you to do 4 episodes, and it'll be easy life, like you're saying,
So
and
we're getting somewhere
consistent.
here. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Like
know what I mean?
that,
Instead
what
of
you're
a
saying there
business,
is
yeah. Instead of like a business owner who wants to nickel and dime you, who's like, oh well, we
no,
didn't
no,
do
no.
two
Yeah.
episodes
And
and
that's
whatever, and but your messaging and your minus the podcast roast, that's the only content that you're producing that is like uh, up there, like professionally, like
yeah. Yeah.
it reflects your expertise. But all the other stuff, it's kind of like that kind of huckster stuff, where it's like,
Yeah.
let me get you more clients, let me get you more leads, and it's like, but you can't, like you don't have any control over the product, right? You don't have any
Totally.
control
Yeah.
over their strategy, you don't have any control over any of these things, so you can't even make those promises, and it's like, why is he doing this? Like, bro, you have done the work to unlock the lifestyle you want with fun clients,
Yeah.
and very few, like
Yeah.
whatever price you're charging now, you can times 4 and work with a bigger person and have 4 times less customers
Yeah.
and still have the consistency, because it's not one client, right? It's multiple clients, and you have that stability, and you can have a wait list and grow your team and whatever to handle more.
And that's all what I'm striving for, truthfully. Like
But you're taking
I
the
think we're like
way.
I think I think we're like we're ending up on the
Yeah,
same plane here. We're getting there. Because
yeah,
now I'm picking up a lot of yeah. And what you just said right there is so like rich and valuable for me
yeah.
because like I'm someone who is like I chose the path of video so that I never had to pick up a pen
Hmm.
because I do not like writing.
Hmm.
Don't like don't like it. But I'm doing it out of I'm doing it because I realize the importance of it now, and I'm starting to find my groove in it, and I'm learning. Like every tweet is
Yeah,
brand
it
new
shows.
for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
it shows.
So
But
like
it's the problem with Twitter and the problem with this entire culture that you joined,
Yeah, yeah,
you're misplaced in it. Is that the sources of truth in that culture is they're not high quality sources.
yeah,
Like Alex Hormozy, these people, Iman Gods, like everybody who's teaching people how to sell, they're not high quality information. They're all selling people how to get rich, and people want to get rich, and it's such an easy thing to sell.
yeah,
If you know the mechanics of selling, it's very easy to find a desperate person and sell them the dream of getting rich, because they almost have no standards. They're like, oh, you're gonna teach me how to get rich, and they say something convincing. Oh, look at my MRO. I've done this,
yeah,
and it's like this is not how you sell sophisticated products to sophisticated people.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Which is what you're selling. You're selling a sophisticated product. You're like, hey, Dirk, you're gonna make zero money, but we're gonna make it look good, buddy.
yeah, yeah. And you've
And
got the
he's
money
gonna
to just
and
throw it
yeah,
away. Yeah,
yeah, and he's like, hell yeah, I want to look good. I want to have a conversation with the people I like and put it out there and make it look awesome. And kind of build my brand up and my fame up, my celebrity up.
yeah.
And be more
And
relevant. Like that's a better value proposition than let me get you more leads and let me make you get rich and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
dude, yeah, yeah. And like I think just like word vomit, like I think what I'm doing right now is proving to others or maybe myself that I can like step outside of this world that
Mm-hmm.
I've been in and start from the ground and like grow. But you're really shedding some light on like you said, two things that have been like boom, like
Mm-hmm.
hard hitters, just like yeah, like get more leads and stuff. Like that shouldn't really be my messaging. But I think why is it that? Because uh I feel like that's how I'm gonna get. I've got a couple clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, good ones too that I'm like pretty pumped on. Um, but I feel like I'm talking like that because I've got to convince someone that they need a podcast. When in reality, like kind of what I started off as, I don't want to work with someone who needs to be convinced. I need to work with someone who wants it and want it to look good.
Yeah, and that's the
And they
top of
just
the funnel, anyways.
like it's like brand. It goes back to brand. Like you want to represent yourself really well and look really good when you hit record and not be bothered.
yeah, 100%. And it's also one of those things where it's like you don't want to be selling top of the funnel thing as your as your product, because like what you're saying is I want to sell the importance of podcasts. Maybe you saw in my review when I did your website, I'm like, this is top of the funnel, this is middle of the funnel, this is top
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
funnel.
yeah, yeah.
But what that means is when people decide that they want a podcast editor, they've already done the research. They know why they need a podcast. They know how it's going to help them. They know all of these things. And now they're making the decision is, why am I picking George over another podcast editor on Fiverr or whatever? And you have those reasons. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You win on all of those vectors. If I'm gonna make a comparison, you've you've done all the
Yeah.
work
And
to kind of win that argument, and you're not leaning into that. You're like, no, let me teach you why you need a podcast. It's like, bro, no,
yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's good.
yeah. All right, so let's assume that this is the new direction, for the rest of these questions, because I know you've chosen to do the business leads and whatever, but like I think I've convinced you that that's not the best direction. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean like true like yeah, like is that who I can talk to on Twitter right now? Yes. But like is it the best direction long term? No.
But even the
Right?
business people, like for example, I added what's his name, Greg Eisenberg, right?
Yeah.
And Greg knows why he needs a podcast. He's the Dirk Nowitzki of the business world.
Startups. Yeah.
Same thing. He doesn't need to know. He doesn't need your take on why podcasts are gonna help him grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
all why looking professional is gonna make him grow. He wants to say, "Oh, okay, I'm spending 12 hours of my life cutting podcasts or whatever, or dealing with my employees that are not great, and I can replace that 12-hour headache with someone who's going to deliver a 10x better product." And that's kind of the equation that you want to sell. It's like, oh, one click and everything is like, you know, better than you
Boom.
can imagine, and
Yeah.
this is why I can deliver, because I've worked with the NFL, I've worked with Disney. I know how to cut things, I know how to tell stories, I know how to
Yeah.
do motion
I know how
graphics,
to
the technical stuff.
manage client expectations, all that
Uh-huh.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say that, because I think that's the best position for you, is big people, like famous people who want, that kind of full service production for
Honestly,
the
like athletes would be awesome. Yeah, because they
athletes
got
would be,
egos that
yeah.
need stroked and
Yeah,
they
and
need to
you've
build a
worked with them,
brand.
and you've worked with
Yeah.
them, and you have the connections, and you have, like, you can lean into all of that. Like, once
Yeah.
your presence reflects that value proposition, it's easy
Yeah.
to hit someone up and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this. If you're interested," because now they're gonna be like, "Oh, let me check out what George is up to." If they go to your Twitter or your website and they see you're talking about leads and like huckster stuff, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, good luck, George." Like, you know. Whereas if they go and they're like, "Shit," like George is cooking. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's he knows what he's doing. He knows, like, he can talk about cameras, microphones, like the technical stuff, motion
Yeah.
graphics, all the things that make a fantastic video. That's your content, and your website kind of says that. Now they're gonna be like, "George, I didn't know you were this amazing." You want to help me with my
Yeah.
podcast? Boom.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, it's funny because like, yeah, that's what I need to be talking about versus is like, here's how you make it awesome. Like, you already know
Yeah.
you need it. Like, here's how you make
Mhm.
it awesome. Here's what
Exactly.
I do to make it awesome.
To make it awesome.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because you know what I'm realizing is a lot of what's probably influenced me as I've been taking these different like coaching courses,
Yeah.
and I it's similar to like going to film school. Like I go to film school, I'm like, dude, I'm already dropping DVDs that are selling in Japan,
Mhm.
in England. Like I don't need to be learning how to open up Adobe Premiere Pro and set
Mhm.
my capture scratch to the right folder.
Yeah.
Um, I'm getting in these courses with people who are trying to start a business, and I'm being taught the language that they need to do, and then I'm subscribing to that.
Mhm.
And I've already blood, sweat, and tears all over the city of LA to scrap at the bottom again.
And you've done even before that, your bike story with the DVD and all of that, like that has more business lessons in it than any coach can teach you.
Mhm.
You selling that DVD that went viral and went all over the place, like that is what you need to be doing, bro. Like, lean into your cool, like, people want to work with cool people. That's like
Yeah,
that's the business lesson, right? Take that,
yeah,
like, replace all your business knowledge with, people want to work with cool people, and how can I showcase my cool? That's it.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like how do you make it awesome? It's
Yeah.
not why do I need it? I'm
Yeah,
writing this
exactly.
down.
Yeah. And it's gonna be encapsulated and sent to you. But I like whatever your style is. All
Things
right,
that end
bro.
up on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, bro. What are your superpowers, if you're gonna describe them?
My superpowers are I can tell a really good story in video. Like I can use the best clips in the world shot by the best DP ever and make it look awesome. And I can take your scraps that your cousin filmed and tell a real good, authentic story.
Oh. Um. So let's go to the target market question now that you're feeling
All right, I
energized.
got one more superpower too. Is like something I found out I'm really good at
Yeah.
is
Maybe.
like producing. Like I can really manage a project well in under the rockiest of storms, and the client will never know there's an issue. And if they have an issue, like they're gonna feel good through it, even though that like I'm over here on the back end like drowning.
Yeah,
It's gonna end up on time. It's gonna end up awesome. And
I
I've
love
just been through so many shitty jobs that the client never knew were shitty, that they're
it.
just happy at the end. My boss always said we're professional turd polishers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and like so I just feel yeah. So I just feel really I've like never had a client unhappy.
I love it.
So
So customer service also a little bit.
yeah, I'm just like yeah. It's like when I reach a level of making videos that I know like they're gonna be happy, and if they're not, like I can tell them
Mhm.
why they're wrong and then convince
Yeah,
them. So
I love it. And who are you serving, or like who do you think you should be serving?
I
So,
think truthfully I should be serving people who
uh,
have who are big personas, whether that's online or not online yet,
mhm.
but people who want to express themselves online through a podcast that know they got to look awesome to feel like themselves and they're not sure how to do it. How's that?
I love. I think it's a better position for it, really, because you've done all the work. So what are their pains if you're gonna I'm gonna split it for you, just so
Yeah.
we have a little segmentation, so we
Yeah.
can like play with files. So let's say you got your Dirk Nowitzki's like retired athletes, all right?
Yeah.
Uh, can current athletes
Yeah.
record podcasts, or
Like
is it against their contractors?
no, you got Draymond Green in the NBA who's like gets in a fight in a game and then like tells reporters like just wait and listen to my podcast and then like releases a podcast later. That's like kind of crazy stuff, but yeah, dude, current players big time. D'Angelo
Yeah,
Russell with the Lakers right now
yeah.
just launched like a huge like personal brand YouTube channel. Um so
That's awesome. So retired athletes, current athletes. Do you want to just stick with athletes just because you've been in like
well, the
BMX?
thing is, like, I don't necessarily want to stick with athletes with balls. Like, I'm cool with anyone who's like bike riding, you know,
Yeah, extreme sports like snowboarders.
Lance Armstrong
Yeah,
or
Simone
like
Biles, whatever.
yeah, or even like doesn't even have to be like it could also be just outdoors people, right? Like people who love not having a roof above their head.
So like a fisherman or whatever, like something like that, or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
totally.
hunter.
Hunter, um, people who feel yeah, people who are outdoors.
Is there a word that encompasses all of these things?
God, I feel like it's just outdoors. I don't know. It's funny. I've done a lot of research on this because I almost went into a niche making branded content. Unscripted branded content was a niche I was after for a while, um, in the sports world, and I really just said like sports and outdoors.
Yeah, because I think it's outdoor sports, like hunting and all
Yeah,
that. It is sports.
yeah. Outdoors captures a lot of it. Sports and outdoors, like that's what you call the big, huge department store where you go and you buy a
Yeah,
basketball and a rifle. Sports and
yeah,
outdoors.
exactly. So like professional, those guys, retired and
Yeah,
active.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I like sports and outdoors. I like. Uh, and what do you think their pain points are? Let's say active and retired maybe is
yeah.
is is it? So let's talk
Probably
active.
closer to retired because they're not doing it every day and they have time to like tell their story. But
Okay,
I haven't like put my nose in there to like say that confidently. So let's say active and retired. You know,
yeah. So active and retired. Like if you're gonna look at the active athlete, right? What are the pain points there?
they got no
There
time
no time, right?
and they probably don't know anyone in the production world. They probably have to like ask around to be like, yo, like I want to do a podcast. Like who's gonna like how do I make a good one? I don't want to have to deal with all the like BS. Like who's gonna make a good one? So they probably my uneducated guess is they only can probably go to their team and their production at their team,
Mhm.
or they just don't know what to do because it's not the world they operate in. They know the gym and their home, and that's about it.
All
So
right,
like,
that's kind of like immediate pain points. But let's say
I got you.
you're
Yeah.
you're look. No, it's good. It's good. no time, no knowledge. Like that's kind of the obvious stuff that you
Yeah.
definitely have to address at some point, you know. But it's two lines in the
Uh-huh.
website if we're gonna think about it,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But what about
Their pain points might be
yeah,
like
emotional or like something like they might
how
feel
to
like
how to look like yourself, like how to
okay,
look and feel like yourself on video. Not necessarily the coaching of like how to talk to the camera, but like how does this video like build my brand?
there we go. Can you talk more about that? Like, why would they be thinking about that, or what are they worried about brand wise that
The thing is,
podcast can?
in my experience,
Yeah,
the athletes aren't worried about it because they don't know they need to be worried about it. Like they don't know that they need to make sure that everything they put out ladders up towards whatever their like values are, if you will, as a brand. Um, People just hire this person, everything's red and Comic Sans, and then they hire this person, everything's beautiful, branded, but it's like nothing ladders up to build on itself to lead towards the greater image that they're trying to be.
so this is not, it's not a pain point. Anything they don't know is not pain, right? But
Yeah.
um would you say like legacy? Like I feel like a lot of athletes
Yeah, they
might
want
have that
to
problem,
they want to tell their story, right?
and they don't want to be irrelevant once they retire.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah. They want to tell their story. They want to like they probably want to be able to tell their story in a way that's not through the lens of like the league, but like, you know, like, hey, I won the championship in 1994 on this team, but more of like super introspective, like tell it from your point of view. Because they probably often don't have an avenue to tell it from their point of view. Um, that might be something. Does that make sense? You know,
No,
like
no, I like it. I'm just, using silence to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
throw
I'm
out
over
a
here.
little
I'm
bit more.
thinking it's good.
Yeah, I'm thinking with you, because it's like as you were talking about this, like it sounds like there is a very, if not uh like an ongoing project, it sounds like there might be an opportunity to be like, hey, let's try out your story, like launch your story or like launch your brand before you retire. So you kind of can capture that. And then once there's capture, you kind of have this podcast situation, right? Or is there like different styles of podcasts? Because I know, like, for example, Bill Burr does like the Monday morning, whatever, where he just rants to the camera and it's like a solo podcast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then there's, like interview style podcast. Like, what are the different styles of podcasts that you can offer or shows that you can offer? Because that would,
Well,
the,
it's funny. Like, I haven't like dove into it fully, but I have seen just in the past, like you probably seen, you know, the Kelsey brothers are. One of them's
yeah,
dating Taylor
yeah, yeah,
Swift, the other one just
yeah.
retired. Like they just got like a 7-digit millions of dollars like in- deal signed for their podcast, and their podcast is literally like what we're doing right now. It's like they're not in the same place; they're just remote talking to each other. And then Tom Brady, I saw he just launched. I don't know if it's a podcast, but it is.
Hmm.
It might not say podcast, but he's like going through plays with ex teammates, like talking through specific plays, like going through my highlights with my wide receiver. And
Oh,
he's like
nice.
got an iPad out and they're like going through the plays and like telling their story of these like specific moments in his career.
Yeah, a
Uh,
little category of those. Do you want to do it right now? Brainstorm together?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I like it. So there's like whatever, the chat, right? The chat, that's kind of interview or whatever, chat between two people like Joe
There's
Rogan
like the
style.
like, yeah, it's like I don't know what we're gonna call it, but like the Kelsey brothers,
Yeah.
basically. That's probably what most people are gonna want to recreate because you're like at your house talking to whoever else can talk from their house.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just gonna call that the chat.
let's call
All
that the
right.
chat. Yeah.
All right. And then
Guest chat, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
guest chat, whatever. Yeah. And then you got the highlights playback or highlights breakdown. with
Yeah, you could say or maybe like career moments breakdown. Like,
career moments with yeah, career moments. I like career moments. All right. And then
but
you
it's
got
more of like but then you have like your Bill Burr, like your like what do you want to call it? Like your rants, like
yeah, the
solo
monologues. Yeah, Ryan's.
monologue.
Yeah.
Um, and then what else have you seen? Like one that's pretty crazy that would be too big of a lift, truthfully, for me,
Uh,
is kind of what we saw with like Nathan Barry and Ali Abdaal, where they're like in this big, huge production stage, like writing
uh,
on a chalkboard
okay.
type of stuff. Like that truthfully like goes beyond where I lose my interest at that level of production.
Yeah, let's just stick with, what you want to do. Like the
But
chat, you got the career moments, you got the monologue, and then you got also, damn it, I just had it. It was something to do with career moments because there's career moments. Oh, and then you got like what's his name? Mighty Mouse, where he kind of does he does Twitch. Do you want to do that? Like
oh, well,
video games
Twitch
and
is
stuff?
usually live. Twitch usually just falls into live stream, right? Like you
But then
just
you
like
can take that live stream and cut it up into a story
you
for
could, yeah,
for
yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, is Twitch not always gaming?
Sometimes, yeah, it's mostly gaming, but like it is not necessarily about the game. Like for example, like T-Pain has a Twitch,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is him playing, but then there's the like jokes and like the intense moments that you can probably cut out and make
Yeah,
into
yeah.
like a,
Just like little
a
clips. You could probably clip it. Yeah.
yeah,
Wait. Um, and I guess you could probably argue it's probably not much of a podcast, but almost like a walk and talk. I don't know if I've ever seen it, but like you
yeah, that
get a player like on the field with a mic and just who knows what they talk about. Like,
yeah, why not? We'll just brainstorm, right? Like
yeah,
ever,
I'm just throwing stuff at the
yeah,
wall.
yeah, walk and talk. You got Twitch gaming, and then you also got uh watching the game with the player.
Watching the game, like current events broken down through their lens. Yeah.
Yeah, or like live, like Joe Rogan has that, like with the when the UFC is on and he's not commentating, he like
Uh-huh.
invites the boys and they all watch the game,
Yeah. Yeah, and
comment on
honestly,
it.
it'd be even what I'd prefer to do is more in control if I'm getting to choose is like we're not watching the game live. Although that's cool, like watch the game live, that's a live
Uh,
stream and then you take that and you cut clips to show
uh,
reactions or something is cool, but
yeah,
like also like, maybe it's the end of the month and we're like, hey, we're gonna go through like the top plays of the past month. I'm gonna break them down or something, or maybe my personal top plays, but it's like current events,
okay,
current
top plays. I like top plays
like
breakdown
it's
of the
almost
month.
like yeah, and it's not always about necessarily like highlighting the top plays as much as it is like, yo, like let's see what Dirk, let's listen to Dirk talk about what he's finding interesting today in the game.
Oh, in basketball, yeah, like all right, yeah,
Yeah.
I like top plays of the month through the lens of whatever. But I
Yeah,
also like
maybe
it
mhm.
as the current athlete. Like, hey, let's break down my top plays
My
in
top.
the
See,
last
that's
month.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And then the live stream stuff I think is a good one too. Like because what you want to be is the merchant, right? Like they come to you and you're
Yeah.
like, hey, you can do this and do this and do this and do this and like create this like content strategy, video content strategy with all the stuff, and then kind of push button setup, you know, hey, I'll send you the equipment, and
Yeah.
I'll send a guy to your house to set up the equipment, and you just all you got to do is press this button when you want to record, and like something like that, or I'll work
Yep.
with your assistant to set it up for you, and your assistant is the person who's gonna like, you want to hit it like that, I think, because that's kind of
I
what they
think so
would.
too.
Yeah,
And you on it, yeah. I already know like how I'd set that up too. I'm like, all right, I gotta get all this shit. And then I gotta have that plan B when they forget to charge the camera. You just plug this sucker in the Insta 360, just throw that guy on as a plan B.
yeah, but this process you got to imagine and map out so that you can sell it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'd
uh,
love to get the freaking I mean, I'm in where I live right now is like the epicenter of sports. Like
yeah,
Dallas is the
uh-huh.
heart of sports right now.
Hmm.
Because like when I truthfully like when I lived in LA, all the videos I did were filmed in Dallas. Like the filmers I
Yeah.
was working with were flying to Dallas, and I'd be like, "Yo, eat here, eat here, eat here,"
Yeah. Yeah.
because athletes come here in the off season.
Hmm.
So
That's
go
great.
on,
Yeah.
we go on. But yeah,
Yes.
so that yeah, those are
CEOs
things that's
also, you can, if you want to go a little business, you can do CEOs of
well, also like agents, like maybe agents of players want to like be
yeah.
seen more personable,
Uh-huh.
um,
Yeah,
or
agents,
something.
CEOs, managers.
Yeah, anyone related, because on it, I have a lot of experience working with like high-ranking business office people.
Mhm.
They're not fun to work with most of the time, but I got experience with it. So
And it's also, it's a good opportunity, like and then
I'll tell you, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll tell you one thing that was
uh,
really cool that I had only for a little bit was a client. It was I forget what they called it. It was B2E, business
okay,
to employee.
okay.
And it was basically like they would do like HR would do like a
Uh-huh.
podcast to communicate to their employees of like huge companies.
Yeah, but now
Um,
we're going out of the
that's different,
your
but
niche, and
they paid me big money for about 2 months, and then they had to cancel it. But anyway, just
yeah.
saying that is like a thought of, yeah, when you get into that office space, it could get there real quick.
Yeah, I understand, but you got to take a
But
stand, bro. Like you got
also,
to say no,
I
to
got, oh yeah,
things.
totally, yeah.
You got to
I'm that's
pick
hard with you.
yeah, you got to pick a lane, and then anything that is not in that lane, even if it's a lot of money, you
Gone.
got to learn to say no.
Yeah, big
And
time, big
not
time.
within schedule, no. No, no.
So I
Like
got another one for you that just came up is like like right now I feel like we're a little
mm,
hyper focused on the athletes with the balls, but it could fit into the top plays as like a player or like maybe it's a rock climber, whoever,
mm,
like some of the coolest things they've done and they like retell that whole story as an episode.
yeah, I like that. Story, yeah, like the monthly.
Like
I like
my story.
the monthly recaps because, like you're saying, a lot of these sometimes like the rock climbers or whatever, they just have like the GoPro and they just record their climbs, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, send me all your climbs. I cut it up into a story every month. That sounds like also low effort work, and
Yeah,
kind of
that's yeah.
predictable.
That truthfully like that literal example, which I know is not representative of everything. Like that example is it ends up being grunt work real
Yeah.
quick. Like something I would probably want to avoid.
Okay. All right. So explain what you would want, because you just
What
brought up
I'd
that
prefer
example.
is like they've already got these awesome videos that they've been having made for themselves for a while, and now we take the video 8 years later and they watch it, and I'll take the best moments from that video to help create a podcast where they're talking about, hey, this is when I climbed Mount Everest. Um,
Mm. Oh, like
versus the more like
highlights.
vlogish that's like, hey, this is what
Okay.
I've been up to. More of like, this is some of like, let's go look at these top moments. Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, or I climbed Mount Everest, or hardest loss of my career, or like big
Bro, with all
injury,
this
or
talent, I don't
yeah.
know, because it's hard. Like, well, have you thought about like making movies like for Netflix and stuff like that? Like,
I hate narrative filmmaking. I just hate narrative, um,
well,
everything.
what do you mean narrative? Like you
Narrative is like
like a
like
style?
like a movie is like there's like a narrative to it versus like what I
Uh,
do and the is probably more of like reality or documentary
okay.
work, right? Like when if we have actors that are embodying the role of a person on a script, like I don't like working in that world.
No, 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 not characters and stuff. Like documentary style movies. Like
Yeah, no, I don't
uh,
I don't like it. I've worked on things like that, and it's just like
mhm,
what I do now, where I
yeah.
kind of exist is like right underneath where it still is marketing and it's not yet cinematic.
Okay.
Um, I've
I
got
like
way
it.
more control here. Once you get into that like cinematic world, you're working on teams of like 60 people,
Yeah.
and I like being the arbiter of their content and letting them know what their content can do best versus like convincing 7 people that it's a good idea and then having the bastard child of all the cooks in the
Mhm.
kitchen.
Yeah, I like. What is the magic trick? Like, what is something? If I put you in front of Dirk Nowitzki, right, and you're allowed to show them 1 minute or like 2 minutes of something, and at the end of it, they're like, "No way, let's go." What is
Mhm.
that magic trick?
Like, what do I show them?
Yeah,
Or
what
what
is that?
I'd probably take a 2-minute snippet of a video I've done that, like, I'm not going to show them a reel of my best work of the past 10 years. Like, I want to show them something I've created that they're going to watch, that they're going to trick themselves. Oh shit, like I'm actually paying attention. And they might feel an emotion. And then they're going to see some like cool pop, 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 cool stuff. Um, but
But
it's
how
going to
does
be
that?
something that like brings out emotion through storytelling, right? Like it'd be like my Miles Garrett video where he's talking about,
No,
um,
no. This is more like hero image type stuff. Like, what is something like, for example, have you heard of Magnific?
no,
Go to their website real quick. Yeah, Magnific. It's kind of how you think you'd spell it.
Magnific AI.
Yeah, go on that, and then you see their little hero image, the before after, and you
Yeah.
slide it. You see how like that's like a magic trick,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you kind of like get it. You're like, I get what this does,
Yeah.
and I want it right now. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like there's no copy. Like you can just I don't not read anything and just do before or after, and you're like, yep, you can
Yep,
do
I
that.
get it.
Yeah. What is that
What's
for your for cut the pop?
that is going to be just like probably like killer looking graphic that's super cool, followed by a super high quality chunk of someone talking. Like it's just going to look like quality and look like, ooh, like that looks really cool. How's that? Because what's
Not
on the
convinced.
screen.
I'm not convinced. I need something like a before after. Like
Oh,
what is
okay. So it could be like raw, like the footage out of the can, straight out of
hmm
the camera. You just see someone talking, blurbing, messing up. Boom. Now, huge graphic sound effect. Boom. Hey, this is the blah, blah, blah podcast.
hmm
Out. And then what does it come from? It comes from just like a dude in his living room, and it ends up looking after color correction, after graphics, after sound, after polishing.
Yeah, I feel like if you cut that ad, what you're saying of like, you start out with like just me and you chatting, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and then you kind of motion graphics it into like the cut the pod converter and comes out the other side, you know, cut the pod style with like graphics and it's action packed and all of that in a certain way that is gonna resonate with that athlete.
yeah,
And maybe you do, you know, I don't know. Yeah. Have you that ad, especially if it's someone like if you have friends who's like an athlete or something with like decent name that can be that, that would be, it would convert higher. But I think that, would you agree, is kind of the
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that people see. They're like, oh shit, I can turn this.
It would be like basically what it would literally be if I had to do it today is raw footage becoming the trailer for the podcast. Like the trailer is the sexy, cool,
hmm
hot retention.
Yeah,
Boom,
if
boom,
you
boom.
can do that, like you should do that.
Yeah.
Like because you're the storyteller, right? And you should tell that story in the ad. It's not about showing that. It's about telling that story of raw, long.
Or it's like, another one I could do right now is like, so like my client right now, his first podcast, he interviewed Dan Coe.
Mhm.
And when I started talking to him, dude had nothing. Like
Yeah.
he was just gonna use his MacBook.
hmm
And then I got him set up with lights,
hmm
mic, boom.
Yeah.
Had an hour and a half long chat where we moved everything in his room, redid the design behind him,
Yeah.
got it all set up, and then boom, now he's interviewing Dan Coe,
Mm.
and he looks better than Dan looks.
That's
Um,
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
truthfully, I think
But
Dan was like hungover or something, who knows? But
yeah,
he
yeah.
just
But
Dan used the wrong camera for the interview, so
That's so funny. But that's kind of what I'm saying is like you want to show that transformation, of look. But that's see, this is still now Bedenko, Alex Hormozy, kind of direction, and it's like I don't think that's convincing enough for Shaquille O'Neal to want to change his
Oh
production
yeah.
crew or
Yeah,
or
yeah. Right.
something,
Like honestly, the big thing is like a lot of what we're talking about might require like video production, which means not post production, which is like my world's post production, right? But like this is like, yo, like they like let's get in the freaking studio and do, which is not what I'm love to do. Um, like
but it's the
I
setup, right? Like it's the podcast setup is a one-time thing
one time thing if you do it right. Yeah, yeah.
if you
Unless
set
you
it
go to a
up.
studio like I don't know, like there's one called Roommates, which is a pretty cool podcast
Okay.
that launched last year. And they had a studio that they went to every time. Set was the same. I don't know how the logistics behind that, but millions of dollars make things happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you think these rich athletes that have homes with 10 rooms can't dedicate one
yeah,
room to being a
to a
studio?
totally, totally. Yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
about you, like that's a service that you offer, a one-time service that I come and set up the 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 studio for you,
yep,
and you just charge whatever makes you comfortable to do that. Happy, not comfortable, happy, like
yeah,
extra, like whatever you think that number is times two or three. All right.
yeah,
Okay. And you set it up and you teach the assistant how to, maybe you teach two or three people in their team how to operate it,
yep,
and then you leave, you go back to Texas.
yep. That would be awesome. I
And
honestly, would it be even better is friggin' bring on some super pro that already does that and just have him do it. Like
yeah,
Kevin Shin, if you ever heard of Kevin Shin, he just like goes around and makes killer uh
there we
home
go.
studios. Like, dude, Kevin, I'm gonna charge this guy 30 grand. You're gonna charge me 10 grand. Go do a good job.
Yeah, you
Um,
you exactly, you just subcontract Kevin,
yeah.
but you have the vision, you know what to do, you're gonna tell Kevin what
Yeah,
the
how does this
strategic
fit X
direction.
person's brand? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you're like kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to think about it. Like I'm just gonna take you through this, but
Yep.
yeah, I'm so curious to see what you're gonna do. But I like this direction for you, to be completely honest.
It's
Is it?
there's yeah.
Yeah,
No, there's elements of it that I'm like, yeah, like I could really see it. Um, and the first one's gonna be freaking you know, I got some bike friends who I could probably convince to let me do it for them,
there we go.
maybe. But these bike guys they don't make the money of the people we're talking about. But
It doesn't matter. It's like the price doesn't matter that much, right? It's
yeah,
about the in the beginning. It's the showcase. You want to showcase that
yeah.
you can do it. You want to get the testimonials. You want to get like it's trading up the chain of influence is what Ryan Holiday calls it, which I like that.
Grading up the chain, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
trading up the chain of influence.
Um,
Like you got those, your buds, and then that somebody bigger than them respects them. They're gonna
yep,
see that and they're gonna be like, "Hey, let's go." And you just, with more proof, you are de-risking the investment, and with less risk, you can charge more money.
yep,
Does
totally.
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Like
so
that's
you,
kind of my business plan is I need to get two clients and then I can just really turn the dial up to the
yeah,
price that I want.
because risk is what determines price. That's like in business. Like Alex Hormozy says differently, but he's a huckster. Like his whatever, time to like this bullshit equation. I forgot it, but that's not
Yeah,
how McKinsey prices things.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah,
so it's directly proportional to risk. So like right now, since you're kind of starting from scratch, you can lean on your network to kind of build that proof so that you can de-risk it for future clients. But once every time the risk goes down, you have more and more proof. You can charge more and more money.
Yeah.
You know, without you feeling like, oh my god, no, but I charged this for the last client. But yeah, but you lower the risk
No, I know. I've been
because
there
you got the
before.
last
Yeah,
client. You know,
totally.
yeah.
I got clients that make the same exact video for, but one gets 10x more than the other. It's just
Yeah. It's kind of you know, I'm a big fan of transparent pricing. You know, I'm like, hey, this is like, hey, you want me to come and do your studio is gonna be $45,000, you know, plus any travel expenses. You know, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is
And
like
my nice hotel too.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's everything is transparent. Like everything has its price and everything has it's so transparent. And I don't mind also raising the price on my website once I've de-risked it to the next level, you know, like so pricing is something kind of philosophical. For me,
Yeah.
it's something transparent because 90% of all inbound sales calls, if you don't have price, is going to be what's your price. They're going to have a 45-minute conversation with you, and that 45-minute conversation is going to be a waste of fucking time because all they want to know in that 45-minute conversation is
That's
what's
how
your
much it
price,
costs. Yeah.
how much it costs.
And what do you
So
think about like people disqualifying themselves who because they just see the price and they don't yet get the value and you get to kind of show
they're
some
never going
value?
to pay. They're never going to pay.
Yeah.
The people who pay for stuff, it's because it's so cheap
Yeah.
to them. It's not
To
because it's
them.
on the cusp of value that they're going to be like, oh well, you know, they're playing, you know, DJ Khaled, they're playing themselves if they're
Yeah.
spending that much money. If the money is so much that they're like, you know, looking at their bank account and what, like, they shouldn't make that investment. They should do
Yeah.
something else. You know, the people who are going to pay whatever price you put, it's because it's so cheap for them that they're like, yeah, here we go.
Like of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 150 grand, here we go. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not
It's
substantial to
funny. It's
them in
like
any way.
part of what I love about what I'm kind of leaning in, like what I'm actively creating is like
Mhm.
I remove the need of production a lot. Like, of course, I got to, like you said, the one-time setup, boom,
Yeah,
done. They do the podcast, they do everything. I
yeah,
just got to make them look good once, then I
mhm,
get the footage, boom. It's like a so easy to create a killer system on my end
mhm,
that makes a high quality product that gets more and more like viciously efficient every time. Because I'm a sucker for good workflow,
yeah,
and like I can take a 10-hour job and do it in 3 hours if you give me enough time. And chops at the block, but
mhm.
that's what I love about what I'm doing now. So it's something I want to be really conscious of is like making sure I don't create the situation to where I'm like unpacking these bigger, massive problems. But I know you got to solve bigger problems to make more money too. So
Not necessarily it's not about problems. It's about ease. It's pain. It's pain and no pain. Like
yeah,
that's how you got to think about it. It's
yeah,
I'm making it painless for you to deliver this fantastic product,
yeah,
right? And if you want to keep doing that, you got to respect my boundaries. Like that's
yeah,
kind of what you need to lean into. And hey, which is the next question is, if you don't like me, you can go to my competition. Do you know anybody who's doing this?
yeah. I'm meeting up with somebody on Tuesday who I've never met. Oh, doing when we say this, let me
Yeah, what we're doing
bit
right now, like the
like building something with athletes.
or celebrities or whatever.
Um, I know people who are, I know of a company that
Yeah.
does it. It's called Wave
Okay,
Entertainment. They basically are doing podcast for athletes.
okay. And
Um,
what's so
and
great about them? Like, do you know anything
I
about
think I have a theory they're owned by NBC. I'm not sure though.
it? Okay.
So I think I don't know if that's true or not, but I have a buddy who knows someone who works there, and it's clear to me that they've they come from some greater, stronger power that is.
Okay.
It's probably a lot easier to gain the trust of these people who are like, because athletes just sign with them and they'll just do podcasts through them.
Hmm.
The only one I know of that's literally doing athletes only. And then there's like the Ringer. Have you ever heard of the Ringer? They do really shitty, terrible podcasts, and
Okay.
athletes will sign with them and like do a podcast through their network.
Yeah.
real low quality stuff, but a really cool brand. They just, their theory, I don't know what it is about them, but they just don't do good podcasts.
Yeah.
And then there's a company called Hatch who gets more of like CEOs, business founders, and does exactly what I do almost
Awesome.
at a really similar price point. Um,
Yeah.
Not as
Uh,
creative as me. And then there's a dude who I've talked to online. He basically built a studio in his little town, and he
mhm.
brings in business owners to record their podcast in his studio and
Okay.
makes their podcast. He's like a Stanford grad, just dude who's just has no video background. He just knows he can make money in video podcast.
Mhm,
And then lastly, I'm meeting with a dude who's based out of Dallas, Texas.
mhm.
He's makes uh he's more of like get it done versus like do it beautifully, but he's got
Okay.
some bigger clients.
I like it. Trying to think. Because we went through a lot of these. All right, that's a good one. What? So there's like different levels of a product, right? The first one is the product, right? Like, hey, I'll come, I'll set it up. I'll set up your studio. I'll take the footage that you record from the studio and I'll cut it up into clips, into a long thing without dead points, and that's kind of what you do, right? Is there anything I'm missing?
Yeah, like I basically have three steps. Like
Hmm.
step one is what I literally do with my clients right now. Step one's a workshop, basically,
Yeah.
where I get an understanding of their brand and their offer and who their clients are, so that every decision I make after that ladders up to brand and goals. Step two is a conjunction of let's make you look good on camera. Let's build your graphics toolkit, which is about like 8 to 10 graphics that I build for every client. Um, Really high end graphics that can work in any video they make for the rest of their time as a human, as long as they don't rebrand.
Yeah.
Um, and that's built with like a really awesome graphics team. And then I do a sound design. So they
Okay.
got their own little theme song, they got their own custom sound effects. And now it's time to record a podcast. And then we just move forward and go forever from there. So it's basically understand the brand, build the brand as a podcast, and then
Yeah.
start
And then
recording.
do the graphics, the sound design, and now you're also gonna do set design,
Yep.
right?
Graphics, sound design, set design. And at that point, like I do some experimentation on the first episode together to like
Okay.
find like, hey, you're gonna do like about a 45-second intro. Oh no, you're doing like a 8 minute intro. Oh, you're doing no intro.
So
Figure out
there's
what
like
they
coaching a little bit.
kind of like figure out what their structure is.
Hmm.
And then we pour concrete on it and make a mold, and that's their structure. So now for me, now I've got graphics that are always there. I got sound design that's always there. I got a structure that I know is always going to be there. And then I start building a really strong system on my end to make it repeatable for them efficiently and myself.
So and the cutting part is you cut clips and an ad, and the
Yeah.
raw footage you cut it up too.
So taking the full podcast, like my last client filmed an hour, 20-minute podcast. What I put out was 48 minutes. Like I
Yeah.
chop
So
up
you
everything
yeah.
that's
So you yeah. Okay. So you
things
clean
that
up
they
the
might think they need, but I'm like, yo, no, like let's keep this thing interesting.
yeah.
Um, and then once they have that full podcast, I turn it into five social clips, which are like pretty heavily branded, got a good call to action.
Huh?
There's like an eye for what those are. Then I do two what I call best of clips, which live on a YouTube playlist that are like 2 to 6 minute long conversation pieces that are the best conversations from that podcast.
Hmm.
The goal of that is you can watch 60 seconds, think cool, then you can go to the YouTube channel. I don't have an hour, but I'll watch this 3 minute clip. All right, shit, I'm gonna watch the whole thing. So you build a ladder up to the full
Okay.
podcast. And then lastly, I build a trailer, which is like all the bells and whistles, turn the dial to 10, turn the
I love it.
volume up, make it look cool.
I
So you
love it.
walk away with 8 to 9 deliverables for every time you hit record.
All right. So that's the product level, right? And then there's the solution. What is the solution that you're offering? Like, what are you solving for the like
I'm
by
letting
doing all of that? What are you solving?
I'm giving them the ability to pass off a raw file that turns into a beautiful show of a podcast that looks better than the competition.
Okay, the solution is the show. And then what is the lifestyle of being a person who does that?
Of me,
No,
like as
the customer.
oh, do they have to, all they have to focus on is like, hey, what am I going to talk about? Let me make sure I'm gonna like ask good questions. They get to be a host, and that's it. You don't have to be a producer. You don't have to be someone who knows what frame rate, oh, this, that. You don't have to know any details. All you got to do
Uh,
is do a good job when you hit record,
and
and
what
then
is
you're
that
done.
feeling like? What is that feeling yourself? Like you,
That
oh,
feeling is like I feel so confident once I'm done recording. Like if I do my job, I know that it's gonna look awesome. So like I don't have to worry about anything other than talking really well and being myself. Everything
oh,
else, I have faith in.
I love it. And then the identity of someone who is that?
The
What
identity, like target,
no,
like
someone
target.
who does that, like someone who is not spending their time cutting and editing and
Oh
doing
man,
all of
well
that,
they
and
put their
they're
focus. They've got like at least 8 more hours a week if they used to do that themselves or manage it
yeah,
to pour back into their
to
business.
manifest what kind of person?
To go after their goals. Like you take that time and you pour it into, you want to spend time with family, spend it with family. You want to build your empire, build your empire. You want to play pickleball in the morning, now you can. Whatever that is, like you gained, I typically say they can take that time that's been pulling them away from their goals, be that business or life. Now you get it back. And you look good in the process.
I love it. All right. And then if you're gonna like put quality factors that the customer's gonna judge by, what are those quality factors?
I'm trying to break it down into a way. I'm just going to share it with my from my vision versus watering it down. But like uh one of the biggest things for me is like most podcasts today do not ladder up to the bigger brand. They just don't. They just look like you've got this whole entire business and then like 3 states over across the other side of the river is your podcast and there's zero tie back to anything else. They use yellow Alex Hormozy captions, like every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They use light leaks that you see on every single thing. They use a checkered background with black and dark gray lines. And I'm like, none of that. It's all random. It's all just the language of the internet. So let's not make it the language of the internet. Let's make it you.
Mm-hmm.
And so now your podcast, someone might only know your podcast, but then when they go to your website, it makes sense to them. They're familiar. They don't have to do the work to be like, oh, this is George's site. No, like this is making your brand stronger with every single episode.
So brand alignment
Brand
is the
alignment, yeah,
there we
true.
go.
Like my goal is to like I always like to say like I make your podcast an extension of your brand. Like
Yeah. So that's one quality factor is brand alignment.
mhm.
What is another quality factor of picking?
um intentional editing. Like so often today we see like cuts all the time so that I can make you say what you need to say. Um when I make a video, you don't recognize there was an editor because it's all invisible. Um, a lot of people really take the gas off the production quality on podcasts because it's long, and they think because it's long, it doesn't. People don't care if you have shitty edits,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tuck them in there. But my theory is 1,000 brushstrokes takes 1,000 little tiny brushstrokes to make the Mona Lisa, right? Like your podcast
Mm-hmm.
is not the Mona Lisa, but when it's your podcast is done with care and intention, it's gonna ladder up to something like all those little brush strokes build something beautiful and strong, right? So to put that into one sentence, it's just like a level of production quality that like confident 90% of podcasts don't have.
What else? So you got brand alignment, you got kind of
Truthfully,
editing.
like graphics, I feel like are pretty big. Um, and then brand alignment, like post-production is what I really like to say versus editing. Like I truthfully feel like editing is a little
Post
bit of
production.
like grunt work, right? Um,
Yeah, and it's kind of just like cutting, right?
Cutting,
Cutting,
yeah,
fixing
yeah.
sound. But
But
your
there's
shit is
ways.
called cut the pod.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's like literally what I do is like I edit it, right? Or my team edits it, but there's like real strong thinking behind it. It's not random. Like you could point at any 1 second and I'll be able to talk to you about why that's happening. Um, there's
Yeah,
intention.
intention.
Um,
I'm
and
gonna call it strategic editing because
yeah, just
intention sounds.
strategy behind it. And then another one um could be like, the way that it's broken down from a full episode. If you go to Descript like most people do, it just picks moments that are not based on anything other than like Lord knows what, to tell you the truth. But and it gives you these fake scores like, oh, this is a 99 out of 100. Um, if you literally just babbled and didn't say a single word, you could upload it and you'd get a 99 out of 100 on some of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And like what I'm doing is I'm like, okay, like I know like your offer is like strategy. And yeah, you might have said something really cool that like sounds cool, but like the clips that I'm gonna pull are going to ladder up towards who you are and what you're trying to become.
I love it. All right. If you're gonna think about the inciting incident, you're a storyteller. What is the inciting incident for your customer? Like, what is the moment that they're like, I need, I need to hire someone? Like, can you describe that moment?
There's one that I think is probably real, which is like the I'm gonna do it myself. And the moment they start, they think, oh shit, I can't.
Yeah, DIY, and then it just goes to shit. They're like, I can't
Yeah.
do this by
Or
myself.
you pass it to your VA, your assistant, who, because you think there's this belief that podcasts don't take a lot of work, which they don't if you don't want them to, but people might, I think a lot of times people will let a VA try to just handle it,
Yeah.
who's used to sending emails, and you're like, hey, make a production.
Hmm.
And it's like, that doesn't really look like I thought it would. Um, and what's one that's like not that, like not DIY? I think another one is really just like, I think it's when someone truly cares about their image and their
Hmm.
brand,
But that's
you
not a moment,
will.
right? That's not an inciting incident.
No,
That's
but yes, I
just.
think you have to be that person, and
Mhm.
then you want to make something like this podcast, and you learn somewhere along the way, you learn, oh man, I need some help.
Mhm.
Um, because why are you gonna want to recreate the wheel when you can just hook up to an existing wheel? I guess.
Yeah, but it's still not a moment, right?
Yeah,
It's not an
it's
exciting
interesting.
incident. Like the DIY thing, I can imagine that moment. They're like, yeah,
Totally.
they
I
reach a
think
point
that's
where they're like, they open Premiere and they're like, oh my god, how do you make a cut here? And they're like, to
yeah,
do
yeah.
tutorials, and they're like,
Or
oh my
another one
god.
could just be like you see a badass podcast and you're like, oh, like how come mine doesn't look like that? Like, because you're not working with me, you know.
Oh, like the moment they see it, all right,
But not the moment they see their own my work, but when
yeah,
they see a
a better
really
part.
good podcast, like how do you do that? Like, well, let me
But
show
that's
you.
also not an inciting incident, right? That's a build up to an inciting incident. But
Yeah,
inciting incident is so I always like because I like talking to SaaS founders,
yeah,
and I use the Mario Bazo. you know, the inciting incident is when Peach is stolen. You know,
yeah,
like that is
yeah.
the exact moment that Mario's like, "Damn, we gotta go get Peach back." right? So
It's
watching a
funny.
good
It's like
yeah,
it's good. Like honestly, the DIY is the most. But I truthfully think like the like avatar that we're talking about, like they're never gonna try to DIY it. You
that's what I'm
know?
saying. Yeah, so like we gotta think about that. Like, what is the
Yeah.
the
It's
inciting
what's
incident
the
from that?
moment that does it? Like it's got to come at inception. Like, hey, I want to do a podcast. Like that
Mm.
might be it. Like the
But
realization that
then
they
they,
want to do it.
but then it's kind of like the what's the easiest way to do it, right?
But
Is
also like,
throw
yeah,
money at
also
some
like
place, and what
what
is
I
the
see a
easiest
lot.
place to throw money?
And truthfully, like I would fold in better with someone who's doing a bad job at it. Like Draymond Green does a really bad job. He
Mm.
makes $18 million a year.
Yeah,
I could make his podcast for $400 a month, right?
but you're
Like
not
that's
gonna
not
do
what I
that.
would charge, but that's what that's what if
Yeah,
he's paying more than that, like he's getting ripped off, you
but
know?
that's what I'm saying. What is it for Draymond Green? Like, what is he like? At what
What would it
point?
take for him to be like, I need to hire me? Like,
Or fire? Yeah, well, like, what
fire
did it
his
take for
guy.
him to fire this guy? Be like,
God, it's
fuck.
gonna take the realization of what's possible. Like you
But
gotta
that's still
realize,
that's not
I
that's not
know, I
strong enough.
know.
That's not strong
Like,
enough.
where's Peach stealing the
Yeah,
flower? If it was me, I had a podcast, I'm an athlete.
yeah,
Like it it's funny, like moments are tough. It all comes down to like what is the catalyst of like shit, this isn't working,
yeah.
what I'm doing right now.
For me, what
If I
comes to me is competition, right? Because they're competitive. Like if they
Yeah,
see
or
a
it could
team,
be like
if
another athlete who like, Draymond, like another athlete in his space, like starts doing exactly what he's doing, but it looks way better,
yeah, that's
right?
what I'm saying. Like the
Yeah.
competition, exactly. Like who's
Yeah.
his on the court? I don't watch basketball, but like on the court,
Oh,
who's
he's got
his
1,000, but like, yeah, it's
one of
like
them?
someone on any other, he hates everyone. So someone who's not on his team
Yeah, like
has a
whatever the
better working
Harden, the
podcast.
build guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
James
No,
Harden. Yeah, like
James Harden. Yeah.
yeah,
He's,
he launches a podcast and it's like 10 times better than his
and it looks
production
good.
quality. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's like, oh goddamn, you're not gonna do that.
Like, don't get left behind. Yeah.
Yeah, the competition. I think competition is a good one for athletes, especially. You know,
Totally. And it
but
makes
if
me
you,
think like don't like water down like all this work you've done to build up who you are by with like low quality production, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, the competition angle is good. Uh, like
especially for the avatar. Yeah, like
for
that's
that
what they're
avatar,
born
yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah, especially because you want to think about how you can take what we're doing today and translate it visually, and in your brain and your
Yeah.
your website and all of that, and like that competition angle is a good one. What about
Like don't
the
let them win.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, or the have them, yeah. And what about the outdoorsman? Like, what do you think about that guy? Because they're not driven by competition, right?
They're driven by like more of an internal like can I do it thing.
But that makes it that they think they can do the their podcast themselves. So that hits the DIY.
Yeah, it could be DIY for someone like that.
Yeah, because
Because
that's one is where you can sell them on, hey, you focus on climbing, I'll focus on, you know,
yeah,
making you
or it's
look
like
good.
whoever, like the
Yeah.
famous hunter or some, who knows if
Hmm.
there's such a thing as a famous hunter. I don't know.
There
Probably
are.
is, but
Yeah, yeah.
um it's like, yeah, like you do what you're good at,
Mhm. Yeah,
kind of like
that's yeah, the lean to mastery,
focus
I
on your
guess.
craft or something, right? It's
There we
like,
go. Yeah. So competition and mastery is kind of the two themes there. Because one
mhm,
of them is I'm the master, you're the master, let the masters work together, right?
yeah,
And
like
then
let's
and then there's the competition, like, hey, you don't want,
and like
you know,
leaning into the branding of it all,
uh,
it's almost like you are this master who goes out there into the woods and brings back the biggest, baddest, whatever it is
mm,
you're after.
yeah,
Like don't
moose.
yeah, like don't make a rabbit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, something. Yeah, I like it. All
But
right,
basically, yeah, like you've done such a good job with what you've done to be who you are. Like, don't mess it up.
all right. If you're gonna get like a board of advisors, right? Uh, fictional, non-fiction, anybody, dead or alive, who would that board of advisors be, and why would you have them?
Dude, I would get my old mentor, uh, put him right behind me and trust like the dude built me and he's amazing at everything he does. He's mean, he's an asshole. He's
Yeah,
never gonna sugarcoat a single thing. And he's gonna make everything better. And I would literally bring no one else but him.
just that
Like,
guy, right?
yeah.
Because you need that, like, you need that, like, kind of hard truth kick in the
It's
butt.
helpful to have like I literally like, he's been my only boss ever. Um it's helpful to me to work with someone. I've worked with some amazing people. I really don't do well working with people who are not rigid. Like if you're
Uh-huh.
going to shift your ideas all the time, I'm gonna get frustrated and I'm gonna leave you behind. So someone who like is an ideas person who sees it, sticks to it,
Mhm.
and we drive that car to the destination, and we're not gonna get out for snacks on the way. We're gonna get there.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like I
It
don't
makes sense.
necessarily enjoy it the most, but like
You need.
I can get distracted, and if someone's gonna get distracted with me, well, I can run down some deep tangents.
I
Um,
like it.
so I like to work with someone who's buttoned up, type A, cover up, kind of my non-type A. So yeah, work with that guy and maybe this other guy, Travis, who was the lead creative director I was always working with that who's just same type of guy. Like he should have been a coal miner, but he worked in the creative world, you know.
All right. If you're going to describe a 5-star experience for your service, how would that look
All right. Every touch point with me looks cool, right? It's not an email with text, but it's like email with like the interactions between my brand are all like really elevated. Like when you send me a file, you're not attaching it to Gmail. It's like you're on a landing page that has like one
like?
big fat area. You go and you drop
Mhm,
it, boom, it shows up in my Dropbox in the right folder.
mhm,
I get a little ping. I start working. They get some fun message that's like, hey, like your show is like started work. Like get excited, you know. Um, they are. It might be 10 days while I'm working on it. They'll probably get an update that just says like, hey, we some like real cool stuff. Like the when you talk about this, when you show this, like get them
mhm,
excited about what I'm working on for them. And again, it's all done in a way that it's consistent with my brand visually.
mhm,
Um, and when I send them their final product, it's like a beautiful, like looks like a cool newsletter, but it's like their like deliverables.
mhm.
That's what I'm working towards today. But I'm far away from it, but I got a very clear vision of what that can be.
All right. What is a 6-star experience?
6 star. Ooh, that's good. I like what you did there. um, there's automation on my end and their end that very easy to learn, easy to repeat. There's no questions. It makes everything I do feel like it should cost way more. Um, Seamless, no clicks, like one email thread, or maybe it's all through a site um, that's easy to reach. And it's all those same touch points, but like friggin' some beautiful designer and a UX person did it. Looks like Apple did it, you know? Like it just looks
It's like a luxury seamless experience. Like
luxury seamless, but
everything.
most of all, like if we have to sacrifice anything, we're sacrificing visuals for just like a seamless, easy client experience that keeps them feeling excited about what they're working on me with.
I love it.
Um, and they feel like how the heck does this guy have any other client but me? Like type of
Oh,
feeling.
yeah. Very nice. All right. And if you're going to think of a 7-star experience,
Woo!
what does that look
Foot massages while they're waiting. No, um, damn, 7 star beyond that. Like, um, okay, here it is. They record.
like? Mhm,
That's it. Nothing. Everything else happens. It's posted on YouTube. It's beautiful. It does this. It's like
mhm.
that nothing. They
Yeah.
record, and when they're done recording, shoot, maybe somehow it just magically goes to where it needs to go, and they don't do anything else. They might not even need to tell me that they recorded an episode. Like it's just like,
Mm,
you know what, like we hit hang up here, and then in 10 days they just know that it's going to be live, ready to go. Um,
love it.
and whether it's fed to their team or whoever, like it's invisible.
Yeah.
I don't have to think. It just happens. Like how the hell did like I don't know what George does, but like I finish recording and then it's live.
All right. If there was a supervillain, all right, who's like 100 times more competent, better than you at like anything you could think of, describe that villain.
They are a person who just think they just like things just work for them. Like they don't do big thinking. They're just like, oh, God, I don't know. Tell me who the supervillain is again.
He's just better than you 100
He's just
times.
better than me. Oh,
Yeah.
I know this guy. I know his name and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. What describe him? Yeah.
they're just someone who does what I do, and half the time, half the stress seems like they don't care. And I'm like, dude, like, how does it that they just like willy nilly like just do this shit and it just turns out awesome? Like, I'm over here thinking, trying to like crack every code, make sure everything answers every other question, and they're just like do do do, and it looks amazing, and they're happy. They're like,
What do you
this
think
the
you can focus on right now? Like one thing that you can just hit every day that it'll make you better than this person in like 10 years.
time blocking.
Time blocking?
Yeah, I'm a big victim of like getting in a flow with one project and then letting everything else fall to the wayside.
Yeah,
Uh, and I can let my time disappear real quick, or I can get distracted real quick. And if I woke up, knew what I needed to work on, worked on what I needed to work on, stopped when I needed to stop, and got done what I needed to get done in a more efficient manner, I would be a freaking superhero.
all right. Let's say your business is a person, all right? Cut the pod is alive and well,
Yep.
okay?
What's
And
up,
in
buddy?
30 and 40 years or 50 years, he passes away,
Yeah.
all right? And the biggest fan of Cut the Pod was to say something, during the funeral. What would they say?
Say, this guy was so nice, lifted up everyone around him, made everyone's life easier, and everyone, it was hard not to have a smile around him.
And why, like, what kind of smile did Cut the Pod bring to people?
Just like easy to be around. Someone who just like you're just gonna feel good. Like if I go hang out with this dude, like no matter what mood I'm in, I'm gonna feel good.
Yeah,
Like it's just gonna cut through the crap and
I
just
love it.
be real.
All right. Have you seen the old Spartacus, the movie?
No,
All right.
no.
So do you know about Spartacus? Do you know the character Spartacus?
I know the name. It's some Greek
But okay, I'll tell you.
mythology.
Yeah. So the Spartacus was a gladiator,
Yeah.
and gladiators obviously were slaves. So what he
Hmm.
did was get all the gladiators together to form an army that rebelled against the Roman Empire.
Oh,
Okay. And
okay.
so he had this, like, he stood for freedom,
He's Luke
and
Skywalker. Yeah.
yeah, he stood for freedom, and like he raised this army. So there's this scene in the movie where they capture the army, right? The Roman soldiers capture the army, and they're like, "We'll spare you if Spartacus reveals himself." And then one soldier takes a step, and he's like, "I am Spartacus." And then another soldier takes a step, and he's
Okay.
like, "I am Spartacus." And the whole army becomes
Yeah.
Spartacus. I am Spartacus. So what is that for you? Like, what would make someone that passionate about what you stand for? Like, why would they say I'm George? Like, what is that?
Me. Like literally
Yeah,
me.
yeah, you.
In a business sense or in just like
Just in general, and you,
dude,
like
I
you.
just like to well, my
What do you
goal is to
stand for?
always like it's kind of what I just said about the cut the pod past, like um generous, selfless, and honest.
I don't think we have a lot of time to get challenged, but I want to challenge this because
Go for it.
generous, selfless, honest doesn't remind me of the BMXer who took who was jumping,
Okay.
ramps
Okay.
and taking videos and hustling and selling it in a bike store, and like that's not the same
Yeah.
guy, right? Like
Yeah.
one
Okay. I'm
is
thinking about it through my eyes of like I'm with you. More you're thinking more legacy. We need to go more legacy versus like bet what my best buds think of me.
not just what your best, but what what do you want your best buds to think of you in a cool sense, not in, oh, he
All
was a
right. Well,
good
maybe
dude,
it's
you know,
like
like
he may like there's like some like if he touches something in the terms of like video, like it
yeah.
just gonna turn it into magic. Like if George is making it, like it's
So it's something about to do with magic, but now think of the Spartacus thing, right? Like, what is that ideal that is like so cool that you're willing to give your life for, right? You know, that is something that also you represent. Like, what is something that if they took away from your art, right, you're gonna not be fulfilled as a human being? You're like, no, you're gonna fight for it. You know?
for my art. Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly. I mean, if we're talking strictly about art, I'm gonna say like my storytelling abilities, like my ability to tell a story.
What about storytelling makes you love it so much?
Honestly, it's a code to crack. It's a challenge to unlock. And I every single time I think there's no way I'm gonna be able to do it, and I always do it. And when you do it,
Mhm.
it's like, oh hell yeah, like we did it again,
Yeah.
you know.
All
And the
right.
challenge could be time. The challenge could
Yeah.
be bad footage. The challenge could be it's such an amazing footage. Like how are we going to live up to the expectations behind this? Like there's just always a different thing, and I like to think I always do it.
All right. Describe what a story means to you in like 10 words.
Gives you a feeling. Um,
But why is that important?
because the story needs to you need to walk away from it with something more than knowledge. Like if someone tells you a story and you go spit facts, like it's not that cool. But someone tells you a story and you really felt something and it gave you this feeling that like you can embody,
Mhm.
and then you want to go let someone else feel that same thing you felt when you were told that or watched that or felt that. It's a unique feeling that can only exist in the form of this medium, whether that was a live event, a video, that becomes nostalgic over time because it
Is
was
it the
so awesome for
humanity
you.
behind it? Because like I feel like you're going so like you're not saying, "Hey, I'm celebrating the humanity in people." It's kind of like
I mean, yeah, humanity is a big
where
thing for sure. It's
yeah,
like, but like
like the
truthfully, I mean, like
coolness
really,
of
let's say that again. What's that last one you said? The wetness?
like the coolness of individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can, it really and truly, I really feel like, what I try to do with anything I'm making, like if I'm making a video about your wedding, like you're gonna
Mm.
cry every time you watch it.
But
If I'm making a
what are you
video,
solving for? Like that's what I'm saying.
like
What are,
how do I get them to get there? Um,
what are you
well,
showcasing to get them there?
oh, it's like it is like the true essence of that piece of reality being portrayed like in a relivable way. It's like it is the humanity in it. It's like I mean something I've always hung my hat on is like I want someone to feel something when they watch this. Like when you watch this.
I like your definition. The essence of a reality that can be lived through vicariously, kind of.
Like one of my favorite things is like my favorite videos in the world are things that I watched that were either of something that felt huge or that video itself felt huge. And 12 years later, I can watch it and I can feel that again. Like
Yeah, the
that's,
essence of reality, capturing the essence of reality
but
is a
that could be
great
through
way.
nostalgia.
Mhm.
Like I think that's what's huge is like when a video can become something that represents some source of nostalgia for you, like that's huge. It's enormous. That's like what
Oh,
fandom is created from is nostalgia. So like, uh,
I'm gonna hit you with two more questions just because you need to leave.
okay.
Uh, yeah,
Hey, you've spent. Like, I'm taking. Like, let's go. Let's get this thing. Let's do this.
yeah, like the
Well,
bat
what do you?
signal. You know, so like Batman, you take out the bat signal when there's crime, right? And Batman shows up, you know, saves the day, right? What is the bat signal for you?
Uh, it's literally like, hey, I need a video.
but it like online, like how do you show up? Like in social media and all that? Like
Like, what is
what is
my bat signal?
mhm.
Like, if I had to, God, I don't know. Um,
I think if I'm gonna give you an answer, to be
yeah,
completely honest, it's how storytelling intersects with technology, right? And the
yeah,
technology being the camera, the graphics, the audio, the capture, all of that. Because it's not just storytelling. You're doing it through the like video, through the medium
yeah,
of
yeah.
video.
It's like, well, it's like, how can I, it's like storytelling too, is it's like, how, like, I'm gonna help you be intrinsically you.
Yes.
Um, like you might not, you might know how to hit record, but some people have the gift of hitting record and that's it. But most don't. Like you need some expertise to like help you look and be and feel and exhibit more of yourself.
All right. If you had a hat with the logo of Cut the Pot, what would it represent?
If I had a hat with the logo
Like if yeah, why would I wear a hat with your logo on?
with Cut the Pot, honestly, it would. I, why would you wear it? Like, why would you wear it
Yeah,
proudly?
what am I representing? Yeah, exactly.
What are you representing? You're representing a something that looks cool that represents like kind of like a lifestyle a little bit um of like show like if like you were wearing a cut the pod hat and I didn't know who you were but I had heard of it and I saw it I'd be like oh like that dude probably did something in his life that's like I should know who this guy is like he's clearly
Uh-huh.
like
Like,
done something really cool. I wonder what he did.
I love it.
It's almost like when you see someone with that like what Alex Hormozzi's company. I forget what his company is called, but like every now and then I'll
acquisition.
see someone with the acquisition. I'll see someone with
Yeah,
like an acquisition hat,
yeah.
and it's usually in like a nicer part of town. And I'm like, what business does that dude own? You know?
That's
I'd
so
be
funny.
like, what story did this guy live? Kind
Yeah,
of a, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. Describe why you're the best option.
Best option because I'm gonna make you a killer video, and the process of getting it is gonna be easy for you. You're gonna walk away with something awesome, and you're gonna not feel stress along the way. Like you got a partner in me.
Yeah,
It's gonna really make sure that you're comfortable with every step and informed at every step. And like I most of my clients end up as my friends.
I love it. And what's the next three steps for
For me,
you? Hmm.
um, the biggest thing I'm walking away with is my presence online needs to be bigger. It needs to lean into the stuff. I need to like trust that what I've done is cool and not like downplay it and find a way to not be arrogant with it either. But my persona online needs to be more of like this guy's does cool shit
Hmm.
and mm, create that feeling which I feel like I have. Like if you give it to this guy, like just it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna
Hmm.
look good and make someone want to be like, dude, yeah, like I'm working with this guy. He used to be a pro BMXer, blah blah blah. He's worked with da 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 like and he's just a cool guy. Um versus like if I give this guy my podcast, his name's George, and I'm gonna get leads. Like I want someone to be like really excited about.
You want the first one, right? Not the second one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like I want
yeah,
someone, and honestly, it's weird. I feel like I got beaten down a little bit, like to a point to where maybe I was kind of told that I was thinking too little or too big, and I was actually doing the right thing
yeah.
earlier.
Earlier, yeah,
Like I
you
was
were on
actually
the
like,
track, and then something happened. You got burned out, and was like, "Hey,
yeah, I
I
got
want to do
burned
something
down.
more."
And I think in this class that I'm in now, as helpful as it is, like I think they were. maybe trying to make me fit the mold of what they're used to. And so they're like, hey, like generate leads, because everyone there's like a dude who's like trying to start a business from scratch. And like I might not have a business yet, but I've done it.
Mhm.
I've lived it. I've done some stuff, and I need to uh like my pain points are bigger than I need to, like, I don't know. Um, but like I'm like my presence needs to be bigger online, and it needs to be more me.
And you should kind of, to be honest, throw away the arrogant thing that that qualifier that you put for
Yeah,
yourself. I don't want to be arrogant.
yeah,
Just forget about that.
I like that. That's what I need to
Just
be told. I need to
yeah,
put
just
that on my freaking wall.
yeah, just
To
forget about that because you're not. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So you're not arrogant. So you're just gonna overcompensate the other way, and it's gonna look still smaller than what
So
it is.
yeah, it's like
You know?
honestly like one thing I went to really quickly on this was like the first thing that came to my head was like instead of like talking about a thread or making a post that says something about like here's why a podcast is important, is actually making like a really badass thread that like walks you like walks you through with like real deal examples from my own work that are like great, like hey, like a podcast really needs to like have a strong opening, like you see a strong opening, like
Boom.
graphics play
Yeah.
a huge role, like also like you don't want to overpower with all this retention stuff you see all over the internet. Like a strong conversation is that, like, and here's an example.
100%.
um like and then that's the first thing that comes to mind, are those types of threads with like real world examples and like explanations that are deeper into the why behind it, versus the surface level like hey, if you do this, like it's going to be good for your business. Like I want someone to get, I need to be working towards the feeling that you get from working with me versus the why.
And you
I
can
think
show it. You can be like, here's how Dirk Nowitzki can become
yeah,
a celebrity
yeah,
again. Boom. And you just do all of that. This
yeah,
is, you're doing already the pod roast, but the format of them is writing. I would just do video, straight up video pod roast of you roasting pods. You know what I mean?
yeah, and like pretty raw, like just like me kind of like almost
Yeah,
like
just like
have to
how I
speak.
do it with the landing pages.
Yeah, yeah,
Just that, so
yeah,
people don't have to read. Just they can just listen to you talk about, be like, hey, look at this, pause, and you show them like, look at this transition, and it's just you breaking down the
yeah,
pod, and then you can kind of give scores, but I feel like with yours you have to do show more or something like that, and it's kind of like you don't want to have them do an extra action. You just
yeah,
want them to click play.
yeah. I think I'll probably
Uh,
go back to some of my better pod roast in terms of
yeah,
impressions and just like do a video version of it just to get
yeah,
some dry runs in. Yeah.
exactly. And you can put them on Twitter. Like videos doing well on Twitter. All right.
Yeah.
So last question, the second piece of paper. All right.
Yeah.
I need you to do the same thing. I want to imagine your life peak impact. You've achieved everything you've kind of trying to achieve right now. What does that look like at that moment?
I'm drawing, right?
Hmm.
Fuck. What does that look like? I've achieved it. I've done it.
You're in the peak of it.
I'm in the peak of it. I think I th can I talk a little bit or just draw?
You can talk a little bit, but you can't write anything. You can describe, like you can do abstract scribbles and stuff, but you just got to describe them. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. The image, you can just do symbols, you can do scribbles, you can like literally just express your emotion, with a scribble or something. But it has to be visual, and then you can describe it with.
I've got it. I'm going for it right now, Zaid.
Uh,
Zaid, am I saying your name right?
no, no, the first one is correct. It's one syllable. Zaid, like
One
page.
syllable. Okay, Zaid.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Zaid like page is how I tell people.
got my abstract scribble.
Mhm.
I'll walk you through it. It's very
Please.
similar. It's a
Hmm.
similar scene that we had at first,
All right.
but what's happening now, there's a
Uh-huh.
little zoom in
All right.
and I'm feeling cool at my own computer doing my own work, and it's not something that I'm trying to escape.
Hell yeah. Amazing.
It's something that I can flow into and out of, though. It's not
Very,
take. It's
very
not a.
cool.
It's not a mandatory thing.
Very, very cool. Love it. Amazing, bro. We're done.